Hey y'all. Um, so it's been probably years since I did an opinion video where I'm actually sharing either my political views or just like my general thoughts on a particular topic. But um, I want to share my perspective on an issue that is really sensitive for most of us out here. That's very taboo, and that is euthanasia, suicide, assisted suicide, what have you. And yeah, I've actually I've had a lot of experience in this realm um, throughout my life in different ways, which I'll touch on in this video. But I feel like I've really taken some time to develop my thoughts about it within the past year, especially. Um, and so I wanted to share my perspective here. This video is really taking a position that I believe that euthanasia, like a safe and effective method for euthanasia, should be free and accessible to all. Um, and I believe that people should have the right to die with dignity and choose when they're able to end their life and to do so in a dignified and painless manner. Yeah, I want to talk about some different factors that have informed my thought process around this. I want to say that this is just as much a personal video of me sharing my own life experience as well as a political and moral standpoint, and also spiritual. My own spiritual beliefs are part of this as well, so there's a little woo-woo in there. And this video is it's pretty deep. So and I would like to ask that people just be respectful if they choose to comment, because this is still a sensitive topic for me. So just be respectful of me as a human being. Be respectful of other people who might be commenting. And yeah, if you are closed-minded, if you're a religious zealot, if you if you're the type of person to have a knee-jerk reaction to topics related to suicide, this video is not for you, because I'm not going to hold back any of my thoughts. So, bye-bye. So how did I even come into really giving this topic any sort of deep thought? Um, Honestly, I want to say, now that I think about it, I've been I've been doing a lot of death research for some years now. Um, I used to have a very persistent fear of death. I've actually made a video about it before. I used to have death anxiety. I had a fear of death, which I know is not, it's kind of common. Um, and it was like really intense. I would get some pretty intense anxiety around it, kind of like an anxiety attack, if you will. Um, just around the thought of dying and feeling out of control and not knowing what's to come. And I had that for a while. And then that kind of inspired me to look into, well, is there any research on what happens after we die? What happens to the physical body? Is there something that happens to our spirit? Is there any evidence of that? And I started looking into that. I started researching mediumship, and also I really got into looking into near-death experiences, which I still sometimes listen to. They're very soothing to listen to, by the way. There's some great YouTube channels on where people share their accounts of near-death experiences that are really beautiful. But I got into that research a few years ago, and actually around like several months after that, I got into that. My brother died. And at the time, I was told one thing about his death, and then I discovered the truth a couple of years later that actually he committed suicide in a really, really terrible and violent way. And that completely crushed me. Um, so, but in the interim, I actually, I've had like contact with my brother um, multiple times, even just recently. He actually contacts me a lot in through my dreams. I have very vivid dreams where he's sometimes present, and those are really comforting for me. Um, and I still feel like he's around. I still feel like he's my brother. He always in the dreams. I used to dream about him before he died, when he was suffering, from mental illness, and he was always suffering in those dreams. And after he died, you know, every time I see him, he's like a whole different person. It's like he always appears to me well and strong and healthy, and that's how he appears to me. Um, and so I know in my heart that wherever he went, he didn't go to a place with more pain and suffering. I believe that. Whatever happened, I don't know how it impacted his spirit or his karma, or I don't know any of that stuff. But I I know that he went into a space where he's okay, and perhaps where his pain and suffering as a human being was alleviated and healed from him in a way that he couldn't access for himself when he was alive. I have had my own bouts of suicidality at different points in my life. Um, they were more intense when I was a teenager, and as an adult, I've found myself like within the past couple of years having like passive suicidal ideation. Is that, I think that's what they call it. Um, and I realized like it actually started becoming, I started exploring it, and not just trying to blow it off, like actually like exploring this, like what is this, like why do I feel this way? And personally, just speaking for myself, there have been some issues that I've had that have been very persistent for throughout my throughout my life, throughout especially my adult life, or maybe they've come into perspective in my adult life more, or sharper focus, that have been very painful and that have made me feel hopeless. And I have done a lot of work in my life I've done a lot of healing work. I've made a lot of healing efforts. I have a great therapist who I've been with for, a couple of years now, um, who loves and cares about me and who is very supportive. But I've have dealt with some persistent um, mental health issues, and some of those issues have been things that I don't feel like I've had really access to solutions to. And um, some of it also has to do with like just isolation, if you will. It's not to say that I'm not like that I'm always isolated, or that I've never had friends, or it's kind of a long story, and I'm hoping not to invite judgment, but I will say that that is a big part of it. And I've on that note, like now that I think of it, like there's been issues of abuse, abusive relationships, and trauma, and like how all of these things, just with trauma that's related to abuse and relationships. Let's just say that, how that's impacted me mentally. And then that's on a micro level. Then I look out into the state of the world and all I see is abuse. like like this entire planet, you know. There's so much brokenness in this planet. I mean, it floors me every day. And I think about it a lot, and I've always been really connected to a lot of I hate this term. I don't like the term social justice because it has a bad rap, but like really I've been connected to a lot of the things that have gone on in the world. I don't watch the news or anything, but it's just like you don't have to look far to see and to know and acknowledge that this planet that we live in is severely broken, spiritually destitute. Um, sometimes I feel like things are getting worse. I grew up feeling like things are getting better, that we've made progress, we're making progress, we're moving forward, and then I'm seeing, oh, I don't think that this world is really what I thought it was. And I think that also, like, seeing that and experiencing that, especially as such a sensitive being, it's contributed to my feeling of hopelessness, especially as I've really like made a lot of strides in my life and continue to see these things crop up in my own personal life and on a macro level. And I started to feel like, especially when things, I don't want to say it's always when things are really hard, like externally, but I've had some really hard emotional times. Sometimes they've been spurred by things that have happened in my life, like events that have happened, and sometimes not quite as much. But I've had some pretty strong moments where I'm like, I don't want to be here anymore. Fuck this shit. I don't want to be here anymore. I don't. I don't. There's why? Why? You know, I'm tired. I'm tired. Um, and I don't really feel connected to this prospect of pushing on for what? I just, I've done so much in my life. Like I know that I still have, some dreams and um, some things that I would love to have in my life, most of which are connected to wellness, honestly, at this point. They're not quite as much connected to like achievements and, like, of course I'm an artist, so I'm always wanting to create things. Like that's just my nature. But like, it's more so connected to just health and wellness. Like I just want to be healthy, happy, and whole, and I feel like I am to some degree, like I'm a very healthy person, um, in a lot of ways, but I feel like I'm in I'm in such a destitute place. I don't want to be here. Why? And wouldn't it be beautiful if I could choose when I make my exit and that I could exit peacefully? Because sometimes I really, really don't want to be here. I'm going to be honest. So, um, that's how I came into really researching what euthanasia, because I'm not, you know, I don't want to hurt myself. This is not about wanting to hurt myself or hating myself, um, or um, or anything like that. It's just respectfully, I would like to bow out. Like, just respectfully, peacefully, mindfully, I would like to bow out. Because it's going to happen eventually. Why do I have to keep rolling on in this broken system? I just, so, so I started looking up the euthanasia pill because I know that that's legal in certain states and certain countries. And I started looking up the legality and jurisdictions and stuff. And I saw that they have very tight restrictions around it, which is understandable, but I don't really agree with it. And I started thinking to myself, why are they so tight-assed around this? Why don't they want to give people an option? Why can't people be able to exercise autonomy over their own life? Why you're not hurting anyone else. I mean, yes, like some people, if you have people, if you have family, if you have friends, if you have a community, maybe they'll grieve you if you die. But not everybody has that, you know? And honestly, like someone shouldn't people should not be living in pain for just so that other people can be able to say, okay, yeah, you're there, that makes me feel better. That I don't believe in that. This is also why a lot of people think that suicide is selfish, and I disagree with that wholeheartedly. So I feel like, our cultural view about suicide in our society is really antiquated. I feel like the way that we have this knee-jerk reaction to people when they express suicidal feelings, or thoughts. We have this knee-jerk reaction to, oh, like, prevention. Oh, no, live. And it's like, what are you drawing that person back into living? Like, I think about when I think about my brother, I think about my brother and how he took his own life. I would have never wanted him to continue living in such pain and misery as he was before he died. Okay? And it would be selfish for me to ask him to stay here and continue living like that. And my family, I think that they made some efforts to help him out. Maybe he made some efforts to help himself out. I actually don't really know the story because he hid a lot of stuff from me. But what are you drawing people back into? There is on this planet homelessness, drug addiction, prostitution, rape. I mean, there's so much lovelessness, just lovelessness, just lovelessness. Forget about all of the extreme issues, which are actually like very numerous and very common, especially outside of a Western society. But even in this country, it's like, but just lovelessness, just the brokenness of the soul. Like, this is rampant and abundant here. And it doesn't have to be. It's a sad state. It's a sad state, and we do it to everyone. We do it to Earth. We rape the Earth. We rape animals and lock them in cages, in zoos and factory farms, and they're imprisoned. Why do you think when people are imprisoned and they're the property of the state, if they try to commit suicide, They lock them and strap them down, and so they can't escape the misery and torture that they're subjected to in prison. It's not fair. It's disgusting. Someone who's imprisoned and and who's sentenced to a life of pain and misery, it's like that suicide prevention that they have in prison. This is part of what like drew my perspective to it. Suicide prevention in prison is always about wanting to continue torturing that person and wanting them to live out their sentence, to punish them. It's not about caring about the person. I don't believe that anyone, I don't care what they did, deserves to go and be tortured in a cell for the rest of their life. I don't care. I was sad when I found out that Derek Chauvin, I believe that's his name, the one who was convicted for killing George Floyd. I was sad when I found out that they threw him in solitary confinement with no reading or writing materials, and he can't receive any letters from his family or anything from the outside world. He's just sitting there for 23 hours a day in protective custody for months. That leaves irreparable damage. That doesn't help anyone. It doesn't bring George Floyd back. It doesn't help anyone's family. It doesn't heal anyone. It doesn't help him see a different perspective. It doesn't help to heal other people who might have similar thoughts of killing someone, or you don't even know. Well, who knows? There's innocent people who are going through that. And people are, they're so cruel. They're so like, certain people deserve to be tortured and maimed. I'm sorry, I don't believe in that bullshit. I think if you do something wrong, you need to be segregated from society perhaps, but you should be healing and changing and reforming, and conditions should be offered to you to do that. Okay? This society is fucked up, and nobody is exempt from some of the worst that it has to offer. So when I see people wanting to leave, I understand. And everybody is so hell-bent culturally in our society. We tend to pathologize, severely pathologize and disrespect and patronize people who are suicidal and who express that they don't want to be here anymore. They are called crazy, treated like they've lost their mind, like they don't have any sense, that they're not clear. And I understand that it exists on a spectrum. Not everyone is the same, like some people, yes, like some people might be really impulsive and having a fit or having some sort of attack, but there's no nuance when we're looking at these things. So we're not looking at actually what kind of world are we living in, and what conditions is that person living under, like with their physical or mental health, or things that have been thrust upon them that are really extensions of like the issues of society, like poverty and homelessness. There's homeless people. How do they survive? Most of them survive by not being here. If they're not dying, they're not here. They're on drugs. They're not here. They can't be there. If they're gonna be alive, well, they're not gonna be here and alive at the same time. They self-medicate. Most people self-medicate. Most people are not here anyway. They're self-medicating with drugs, with sex, with toxic relationships, okay, with television, all sorts of bullshit, with alcohol. Most people not really here anyway. So, and it's, again, this is on a spectrum. I'm not saying all these people should go on and die. I'm just saying I feel like the way that we pathologize people, the way we pathologize people who are suicidal in a way that society, people in society, and especially in the mental health field, they just look at you like you're crazy and you don't have any sense. You know, the reality is many suicidal people are sane people who are dealing with unbearable circumstances, whatever it may be in their life. They don't live a quality of life that they deserve. They don't feel like it's accessible for them to have the quality of life that they deserve, which, to be honest, everyone wants to say it gets better, but in some cases that can be realistic. That can be realistic. For whatever reason, it depends on the person. You know, they're not getting the support that they deserve. The support that they need and deserve may not be available structurally or institutionally or socially or what have you, for whatever reason. And no, I don't think that they're crazy. And trying to force people to live for is I feel like those people are driven to desperate measures where they have to take matters into their own hands, and they have to take their own life in a very undignified and painful manner where they're in isolation, away from any loved ones that they might have. And it's terrible because this is not, we don't have a wholesome alternative for those people. Whether it's, helping them to get back on track or giving them an option to die in a civilized society. In a civilized society, the euthanasia pill, a safe, effective, painless method to end your life, would be more readily available to people because they would be trusted with it, because because most people have a will to survive. It's evolutionarily inbuilt in us to survive. There's no respect for the fact that if someone wants to take their own life or they want to die, that there's no respect for the pain that person must be feeling to feel that way, to override their biological instinct. And in a lot of cases, what courage that takes, or how desperate they might feel in some cases. In a civilized society, a euthanasia pill, a safe and effective and painless method to end your life at your own will, would be more readily available to people in that society. Why? Because civilians could be trusted to only use it if they really need to. That there would be structures in place, or society would be structured in a way that people are living in purpose. People have healthy options. People are living healthy, functional lives. Why would they want to do something like that unless they really had to? But the reason why it's so not available is because I believe it's because if it were available, with the way things are right now, people would be dropping like flies. You would see so many people opting out of this bullshit, it would fucking burn your eyes out. Okay? It would be like a fucking genocide. Like, I'm telling you. And it's not even like people will be doing it irrationally. It's like, you get the option to plan your death, you know, and do it the way that you want to. People would be using it. People would be using it, either planning to or using it in the interim. Okay, but I'll tell you, a lot of people would be using that shit. And it would not reflect well. It would reflect so poorly on the leaders of this society, of our world leaders. It would make them look really bad. And their workforce would be depleted because all of their wealth is dependent on impoverished people to do the labor and to be oppressed and to continue living in poverty. Those people's good fortune and trust funds and all of that shit, it's all dependent on those people. If you give them a way out, if you give them an easier way out, that's just one more option. It's just one more option that you're giving people to free themselves from your shackles. They need their workforce. I mean, people actually saw that. I'm circling back, and this is perhaps not linear. The near-death experiences that I watched, like I said, people, as more and more research comes out on death research, and there's more evidence that is accessible to the mainstream about what actually happens when we die, experientially, spiritually, proving that there's life after death, proving that we go to a better place, proving that that even people with all sorts of death, including those who took their own life, ended up being okay and not going to hell. And that, once we see that cross between the metaphysical world, metaphysical research and scientific research, eventually is going to merge a lot more. And this information is going to be accessible, and people are going to be like, wow, this is not so, what I thought about death, it's not so scary anymore. That's how it was for me years ago when I started doing this research. It was a combination of learning from other people's experiences, either with near-death experiences or mediumship, and then experiencing my brother's death and how that impacted me as a human being, as a spiritual being, and that helped me to feel more connected in a way, and feel like it's not so scary, and I feel like once more of that is like more tangible evidence, and it's not this kind of like woo-woo, like, that it kind of like there's more concrete truths available to people, I feel like the landscape is going to shift. Yeah, I just feel like the way that we think about this and the fear that we have around suicide is a reflection on our fear of death collectively. Like I said, religious views, and I feel like many years from now, many years down the line, we're going to look back on this and be like, wow, it's going to be like one of those things that like back in the 1700s, they thought this one thing, or they had this weird superstition about, a taboo topic, or this used to be taboo, or like we used to think this about, and now people are more enlightened, and I feel like that's how we think about suicide. It's like this really like, but I feel like that's going to come to light, you know, I don't know when, but I wanted to share this. I wanted to talk about this. And um I don't know, as far as like these are my beliefs on this topic. As far as like myself on a personal level, it feels good to talk about this because I never really do. Um but as far as like myself personally, I just feel like the things that I struggle with, I still continue to work on, but I am pretty clear that I feel like I've done plenty in my life. Like I've accomplished so much. I've accomplished I've accomplished so much as an artist. I've, made my mark. I've published my memoir. I have made my film. I've, like contributed to the culture. I've been outspoken. I've done this, that, the third, and I don't really have a need to continue to produce. That's why I said that my dreams for myself are first and foremost and rooted in, you know, um, wellness, well-being, how I feel. They're not about, any of that stuff. I'm like, I don't need to, like, as far as like life purpose, I'm like, I feel like I've lived my purpose. I'm like, maybe God will take me early. Maybe God will take me early because I'm just like, this place, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know about this place. I don't know about my life. I continue to press on, and I continue to work on my own healing from some of the things that I've been through, and I continue um, to be authentic, and but I feel like I don't know. I be feeling like I want to be somewhere else, like on a deeper level. But I continue, and there are some things that I love about this planet. This is a beautiful planet. Like, I love cats. Cats are the best thing here. Cats are one of the best things here, really. And I'm a professional cat sitter as well, amongst like other things, and I really love it. But I just, I feel like I'm like, wow, I feel like very complete in a way, and maybe God will just take me early. I hope it's not too painful. But how nice would it be if I could actually like just go whenever I want to and be like, peace, beam me up, Scotty. I think that would feel, honestly, I would appreciate having that option, and I also feel like I wouldn't, um, if I did have that option, I wouldn't use it. I would endeavor not to. I wouldn't use it recklessly because I do value my life, and I know that I'm a valuable human being. And that's the thing. It's like, I'm not crazy for feeling the way I do. And that's also part of why I wanted to make this video, because I'm just like, if there's anyone out there who also feels or has felt the same way, or who deals with passive suicidal ideation, or who doesn't feel particularly connected to living, or who is like, when's this happening, or I don't know about this place. I'm just like, well, you know, here it is. You know, I I can relate to that feeling, and um, even with my challenges and struggles, I consider myself to be very clear, like very clear minded. and very intelligent. And, you know, I I do my best given the circumstances that I'm under, which are difficult, to live a healthy and wholesome life. And I still feel this way. So I just want to share that with y'all. Thank you for listening. I love y'all. Um, Sending love. I appreciate those who have supported me over the years. Um, and yeah, we're all in this galactic ghetto together. Peace.